Los Angeles, California. Would you risk your life for someone who wouldn't even notice you? Los Angeles was a city of extremes. Towering skyscrapers, luxury cars, and celebrities walking red carpets. But beneath the glow of flashing lights and billion-dollar mansions, there was another world. One where kids like Jaden existed. At just 12 years old, Jaden had already learned more about survival than most people would in a lifetime. He had been homeless for as long as he could remember. His mother had passed away when he was young, and with no father in the picture, he was left to fend for himself. While other kids worried about school and video games, Jaden worried about where he would sleep each night. He spent his days searching for food in dumpsters behind restaurants, slipping into abandoned buildings when the nights grew too cold, and avoiding the dangers lurking in the streets. He had no family, no home, and no one looking out for him. Most people ignored him. Some walked past as if he were invisible, their eyes fixed on their phones or the pavement in front of them. Others cast him pitiful glances before quickly looking away, uncomfortable with the sight of a struggling child. And then there were those, the rich, the privileged, who looked at him with disgust, as if his very presence was an inconvenience. But despite everything, Jaden never lost his kindness. He had learned that the world was cruel, but he refused to let it change who he was. If he found extra food, he shared it with others in his neighborhood. If he saw someone else struggling, he offered what little he had. Even on the worst nights, when hunger gnawed at his stomach and the cold crept into his bones, he held on to hope. Because deep down, Jaden believed that kindness mattered. Even when no one else saw him, even when the world treated him like he didn't exist, he knew that his actions defined him, not his circumstances. Some nights, he would sit on the sidewalk near a cafe, watching families eat, laughing together, sharing meals he could only dream of. He imagined what it would be like to sit with them, to feel full, to have someone waiting for him at home. But those thoughts never lasted long. He knew better than to wish for things that weren't meant for him. Yet, Jaden never let himself grow bitter. He would smile at strangers, hoping that maybe, just maybe, one day someone would smile back. He would pick up discarded blankets and give them to those worse off than him, even if he had little himself. He had nothing, yet he gave everything. The city moved fast, and the people in it moved even faster. But Jaden, he waited. He waited for a moment, for a sign, for something to prove that his kindness wasn't wasted, that his belief in people, in goodness, in chances, wasn't foolish. And one day, that kindness would change his life forever. It was midday in Los Angeles, the sun blazing overhead as luxury cars cruised through the pristine streets of an upscale neighborhood. Beyond the towering gates and immaculate driveways, the world felt untouched by struggle. But just outside one of those grand estates, Jaden sat on the sidewalk, adjusting the old blanket he had found that morning. It wasn't much, but it was something. His stomach growled, but hunger was nothing new. He leaned back against the cold metal of a street lamp, watching the world move around him. People walked past, lost in their own lives, their sunglasses shielding their eyes from everything they didn't want to see, including him. He had long since grown used to being invisible, just another forgotten soul in a city that had no place for him. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb nearby, its tinted windows rolling down just enough to let out the hum of air conditioning. The back door swung open, and out stepped a woman dressed in a flowing yellow dress, the fabric catching the light like liquid gold. Her diamond earrings sparkled as she moved, her heels clicking against the pavement. Jaden recognized her. Everyone did. Veronica Caldwell, wife of billionaire investor Matthew Caldwell. Her face was everywhere: magazines, television interviews, charity events. To most, she was the image of elegance and wealth. To Jaden, she was just another rich person who would never notice someone like him. She rummaged through her purse, searching for something, completely unaware of her surroundings. Jaden wasn't paying much attention until he saw movement from across the street. A man in dark clothing approached, his pace quick but calculated. Something about the way he moved sent a chill down Jaden's spine. Then, in a single motion, The man pulled a black ski mask over his face. Jaden's eyes widened. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. The man's hands tightened around a rope tucked beneath his jacket, his steps growing more deliberate. His movements were practiced, intentional. This wasn't a random act. This man had a plan. Veronica Caldwell had no idea what was about to happen. Jaden did. Every instinct screamed at him to stay quiet, to look away. This wasn't his problem. He was just a kid. What could he possibly do? But deep down, he knew the truth. If he did nothing, she wouldn't stand a chance. The streets remained silent. No one else noticed. No one else cared. But Jaden did. His hands trembled as he pushed himself up from the pavement, his breath unsteady, fear pulsing through him. He had been in dangerous situations before, but never like this. Never with someone else's life on the line. He looked around, hoping anyone would step in. But the street was empty. The security guards at the estate entrance were distracted, talking amongst themselves. The man in the ski mask was closing in. His grip tightened around the rope. Jaden took a deep breath, forcing himself to move. He didn't have a plan, didn't have time to think. All he knew was that if he didn't act now, he might never forgive himself. He stepped forward, opening his mouth to shout, and in that instant, the man turned his head, locking eyes with him. The world around Jaden seemed to slow down. The masked man lunged forward, wrapping an arm around Veronica and clamping a gloved hand over her mouth. Her eyes went wide with terror, her body jerking violently as she tried to fight him off. She thrashed, kicking her heels against the pavement, her hands clawing at his arm, but he was too strong. His grip was tight, controlled. This wasn't his first time doing something like this. Jaden's heart pounded as he looked toward the mansion. The people inside were too far away, the high iron gate muffling any sound. The estate security team, once so intimidating, now seemed useless, standing near the entrance, unaware of the danger just yards away. Veronica tried to scream, but the man pressed down harder, muffling her voice against his gloved palm. Her muffled words barely reached Jaden. "He's after me. He wants me dead. Please help me." Jaden had seconds to act, or she would be gone.